Josh, have you heard of the term DINK?
I have actually, yeah.
All right. So, for those of you who don't know, DINK is the term for dual income, no kids.
Mm-hmm.
And a surprising figure has come out recently that is a bit interesting, but it does make a lot of sense. And that figure is that people who have dual incomes, no kids, have more money. They have a higher net worth.
This makes a lot of sense because they have no kids. Because kids are expensive.
Kids are apparently really expensive because the graphs are showing that the value of people who have no kids or their net worth is like over $100,000 difference between people with no kids and
People with kids.
with kids.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't expect it to be that much. Like, okay, it's like, oh, a kid, they have like, yearly needs, but then like, just like any type of investment, like you put a little bit in, and all that money they spend on kids could be used for either investments or saving or literally anything else.
Yeah, but this makes total sense to me because yes, the cost of raising a kid is extremely high, and the thing is, with continuous rising prices, with inflation, with a bunch of other things that are happening, you have to put your kid in school. You have to pay for their meals. You have to. There's a lot.
Health
that goes
insurance.
into it. Health insurance.
Health insurance is way more when you consider having
a
like,
kid. Yeah. It's super high, and the thing is too, there's a bunch of other things too, like school as they grow older, books and other things like that.
Their cell phone plan.
Oh, their cell phone plan.
They would have. I mean, like most kids have cell phones nowadays. I mean, I think it's expected that they would have one.
Yes, I do agree with you on that, especially with the technology that that's coming out. A lot of these kids are having that and even learning it in school. So I think, yes, it is very common for kids to have phones.
Mm-hmm. But if you find this type of content interesting, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We come out with interesting videos daily, so consider hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button, and following us on this journey. So to continue on, this has not been the most well respected or smiled upon choices, because most people who have kids will view as like, oh, why don't you have kids? It's very I feel like a lot of times it's very judgmental, like in terms of like your family or your parents, and it's like, oh, like when are the grandkids coming? It's like, man, I don't know.
You know what though? I think that it's because also the environment that we're currently in now is different from the environment before. Even like a few years ago, the environment's completely different. Things cost more.
Yes.
Daycare is super expensive.
Daycare is its own topic by itself.
Yes, we go on at length because I feel like there's a lot that goes in that. Because if you're starting a business, if you do daycare, if you get all the licenses and everything like that, booming business.
Yes, I think I saw some articles and figures, and it's like $36,000 potentially for an upper, like a more expensive daycare. But I was like, damn, that's
a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. It's a growing the thing is, because of the growing demand, because of people wanting, I think just in general, I think from what I heard, it's hard to find a good daycare. So I guess it's the premium ones could really charge a high price, and it raises the prices of all the other ones too. But yes, no, you have to think about a lot of things when having a kids that you don't have to think about when you are you're just a dual income, no kids. Because the thing is, like, yes, you do have to think about like when they get older, you have to think about like your cars,
paying for for car, potentially paying for the school. I mean, most people are still stuck in their own personal student loan debt, so it's like kind of ridiculous to like even consider being able to pay for someone else when you're like up to your head, up to your up your eyeballs in debt, and you're like, oh, how am I supposed to pay for this other living being when like I can't afford to like live here.
Yeah, and this all makes sense, and I think I would want to know the quality of life that you do have for dual income, no kids compared to having kids, and how that looks like. But the thing is too, I do remember this because I had heard of a story about parents going into debt because they were essentially financing kids' lunches. Yes,
what does that mean?
Because schools could put you in debt for buying a lunch for your kid, essentially like a credit card.
Oh, yeah, that is true. I do remember that because you have your school lunch card and then you have to fill it up with money.
Yes.
And you have to pay, and especially if you don't qualify for the free lunch program and you want to eat at school, or get a hot lunch.
Yes.
It costs way, way more. And the cost obviously hasn't gone down since we were in school. It's only gone up.
Yeah, so it's very interesting too because it does make you think about like potentially having a kid or not having a kid. I do know other countries right now, they're having a population crisis because the younger generation isn't necessarily having a kid, but a lot of the complaints are that in this economy, it's too expensive to have a kid.
Yeah, and I do think it also involves the work culture. If you're have no time for yourself, you have no time to really relax or do anything else besides work, when would you have time to have a kid? When would that time come? It's how if you have no time to go and relax at all, how can you have time to go visit Billy's soccer game? That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I agree. The thing is that I remember reading that the average age of people having kids has been pushed further and further, especially over the last few years, which made it harder to meet people. So now the population of people having kids has been pushed out a little further because everyone was essentially
waiting.
waiting for 2 years. So it really threw off a lot of people's time scheduling.
So another wild thing is that, when you have these dual income, no kids people, if you look at that, they can just go to work, do their own thing normally. But if you have a kid, there's other things that you don't expect where all these extra bills and, childcare and all these other things, they add up to the point where potentially it's more beneficial to have someone stay at home to take care of the kid versus having them work. Because if you're at work, all that money that you're working for is to go take care of your kid when you're not there.
Yeah.
So it's at that point, why even work when you could just go, you're saving money, potentially.
Yeah, you're saving money by not working.
And not paying
a daycare.
Yeah. So I'm it's very weird, and I don't know. I think there's nothing wrong with having kids or anything like that. It's just I think people or when I say people, I think corporations and companies are monetizing children to the point where it's making it unaffordable for some people to have kids.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with that.
Or it's making it to where, the people who think more about it just choose not to.
So for some people, it doesn't make financial sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But let us know in the comments down below. Are you a dink, or are you single with no kids? Or are you, do you have a pet? I feel like the other category is dinkwads, dual income, no kids with a dog.
Oh, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, so they get very specific.
Oh my God.
But, I think in terms of the priorities in life, I do think a lot of the millennials / Gen Z and beyond, their priorities are I gotta enjoy myself when I can, versus having the idea that to have like a family or set up something like that. I think it's just different, priorities for some people.
Yeah, and I would want to know what our audience has to say. Yeah.